Hey Jasmine, I just wanted to give you some more feedback because I know you've worked really hard on this, and you're starting to move in the right direction of, finding a musical background that isn't too strong. This one still, though, this mic object is really competing with, with the objects in the objects on your caricature. So you might, you can do other things to kind of subdue it. You could, even lower the opacity more than you have. No, that's not going to work. Let's see here. You could try doing levels. I mean, there's ways that you can get it to not stand out so much. That's getting really bright though. Trying to make it go away a little bit, but not, not get too bright. So anyway, that would be the main suggestion. You could also, if it's big enough, I'm going to turn this off. You could make it bigger so it doesn't stand out as much. You know what I mean? So you just see a little bit of the mic. Something like that. Or even just something like, yeah, you could do something like that and then move it down a little bit. But again, you still have this form that looks similar to that, to your drum, and it works to kind of neutralize it. So, I know it's hard to search for this stuff. This background also looks a little bit too small in size, because when I zoom in, see the difference in quality of this as compared to some of your other objects. So that's definitely a consideration. It looks pretty low quality. So when you do that Google image search, make sure you click this one here. Like when you do the tools, make sure you click larger than 4 megapixels, and then you can kind of look for musical. Most of these are really terrible and really kind of cheesy. So, I don't know. Sometimes you might want to put like music studio or something like that. Just to kind of try to get something that's more appropriate. I mean, something like these boards could work too. You would just have to really lower the opacity. Oh gosh, it keeps changing. You would just have to really lower, the opacity so it doesn't stand out so much. But this could actually work because it's pretty low key. I mean, even something, just something else and you could add the musical notes too. You can even put something like this and layer it with your musical notes. Or get some other ones, and then then you'd have more freedom. You can also create some, even though they're pretty cheesy, but but just to show you, if you go, I'm just going to change this color a little bit. I think I've already showed you this, but if you go to let's see, my Photoshop is just. This shape tool right here, there's tons of musical notes in here. There's and you can also search for more different ones too. I mean, I think I showed you this before. So you could create some of your own, and then then you wouldn't be stuck with just having the stuff that you get, that's from the web. So then if I've let me change the color here. So again, you can add your own notes, and then you can make them different sizes. You could lower the opacity. You can do a lot of different stuff with them. That's that'll really make it your own, and then it won't look as pixelated as this. So some other suggestions. I know that you've worked. I don't normally give this much feedback to people, but I know you've worked really hard. I would not do any of these drop shadows. I would just turn them all off. They just really, what they do is they even make it look flat. But what I would do is go back into, this is the top of the threads, and I would create one of these realistic cast shadows that has a gradient. Then it will really work to ground your caricature so it doesn't look floating. I like this font, but I would continue searching for fonts. I would also suggest putting the caricature down here and making it bigger. Let's see if I can put everything in a folder, which if you select that and click here, I would suggest moving it down and making it a little bigger, and then you can put the text up here. But I like your glows. I just wouldn't use the black. You could still use the black, but I would create the cast shadow for sure. And I wouldn't, now this here is just making it look flat, so I would definitely get rid of that. Let's see. I would turn that off because it's making it look flat. These drop shadows never work for really anything, but I would go in and let's see if I can find it. I would put a layer on top, and I would go in with a light brush, and I would add, some type of shading to it. So I would get the brush and, let's see, make it a little bit bigger, but I would turn the opacity down, and I would just paint a little bit of detail around this so it kind of looks like it's actually going into the drum, so it looks a little bit more realistic. Even something like I showed you before with with that one piece. Yeah, like something like this would really add a nice touch, because the thing with wherever things join up, it's kind of a place where people really look at it and they really see they really see it, and it's really noticeable. And if it doesn't, this is the part that doesn't make it believable, and it's the part that makes it kind of incoherent. Another thing you could do with the drumsticks, let me see if I can find them. It's that one. Where's the other one? Whoops, shoot, it went away. You could think about, making them kind of fatter. I mean, I would never normally say to distort images, but in something this skinny, if you make it kind of fatter looking, like that, it's just going to come out a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? And you could paint a color in here. It just needs a little bit more variety. And you could also really, make the front one bigger, because then it will look like it's coming forward, right? And you could rotate it. You could really give it a kind of a personality that's like, that's like moving, because this is music. And then you can, take this back one. Just a second. Just trying to turn off your. You could take the back one and then, also kind of rotate it and play with it a little bit, so it really doesn't look like it's so static. Even something like this kind of looks more like maybe that, it's dancing or something like that. And I'm not saying to do this necessarily, but it really will look, the idea is to make it kind of interesting and fun, and, like it's animated. And so if you did something like this, like even the fact that if you make this bigger, it's going to look like it is closer. Another thing to add depth. And then if you get that drop shadow, and then you could also do that with the other drumstick, that's this one, since this is going to be the bigger end. Whoops. You can make this one also larger. And like I say, I don't advocate distorting this, but I think that it will really, it'll look, if you make it kind of bigger, it's going to just look a lot better if it's kind of fatter. Yeah, I don't know. This isn't working that well. But if you make it, yeah, I would make it bigger like this, not that big. But then again, and then I would cut off the back. But then again, if you're doing, if you play around with the positioning of the drumsticks, you're really going to have a different, you know what I mean? It's gonna start taking on a different personality, which is the whole idea of all this stuff. Let's see what if we rotate it. But again, this is really the part that you do in design, is you're always going back and forth. So even something like that is starting to now look like it's moving a little bit, right? And I'm not saying I did a really crummy job on it, but even just moving stuff around, it looks like it's moving. I mean, it looks like now it's moving a little bit, and it looks like it might even be jumping. And if you have like the cast shadow, it's going to really help. So I think you're really coming a long way. I just think that we have 2 more versions. So just the more refinements you can really, start really playing with and really move stuff around and really go for it. I know it takes a lot of time and it's challenging, but this is really what this design project is about, and it mirrors what really goes on too in the real design world. Okay, so anyway, I hope you found this useful. I know it's a lot, but I just wanted to give you some more feedback because you've really put a lot of time into this, and I can see you're really, you're really making a good effort. Okay.